way.
That leads me to a question I was going to ask you. Do you feel that these children are, the more we talk about this, the more I think, there is no such thing as ADD, because what they need is what every child needs, and every child is different. But what I was going to ask is the difference between public school and an independent school. What environment do you feel is better for these children in terms of learning and gaining a better perspective of who they are?
Well, the reality is that the child that has an opportunity to go to a private school, or at the very least go to a public school where they're given a 504, which will help them have more time on tests and will enable them to go into a resource room and work with an instructor on a one-on-one basis. These type of situations lend themselves to kids who get overwhelmed more easily because they have ADD challenges or the hyperactivity part. They work best in small numbers. They work best on a one-on-one basis. They work best when things are given to them on a pace and on a level that they can really understand and feel okay about. Now, if you're a student like one that I interviewed recently, who the parent had told me that even though they have ADD, they're going to be in a classroom of 21, and that the parent was reassured by the specialist who's going to be the teacher that she'll be able to keep a careful eye on her son. But the parent and I both agreed that it's really not the appropriate place for her son, because whether he's on his medication or he's off, he's still going to really do better in a classroom where there's 7 kids and 1 teacher versus 21 kids and a teacher. So unfortunately, it has a lot to do with, economics, and it has a lot to do with also the community that you live in. But if a person can find a way to put their kid into a situation where there are less numbers to deal with, then that's a wonderful thing. And now what's passed in Congress is that you don't have to have, you can get, there's a new law that provides parents with getting back the monies they've put out for their child in private school. And the rule used to be is that you'd have to first put the kid into a public school system, and if that didn't work, then they might be able to go into a private school. But now the government's saying you will get reimbursed partially if your child has to go into a private school, and the prerequisite does not have to be that you have to send them to a public school like this son that I mentioned, this boy that's going to be in a classroom of 21. So the laws have gotten better for parents who do have kids with learning disabilities. They're making the lives easier for the child and for the parent now, which is a wonderful thing. It was just passed a few weeks ago.
So this is a law that is all across the United States, that someone with a child has ADD can enroll their child in a private school and be reimbursed half the tuition cost?
And have sometimes tuition be reimbursed, and the prerequisite is no longer that you have to put them into a public school system first and make them go through such difficulties. And every case is individualistic, but they're not forcing parents to put the kids into a normal school system first, to try their child out first to see how they handle things, despite what the diagnosis is and things of that nature.
Yeah. Kerin, I just have someone chatting to me in the chat room.
Okay.
And I will just sort of read to you what she's saying. She said that, or he, sorry, I've purchased so many books. Does this book work? Also saying schools can't or won't accommodate the smaller group. I went to the school many times to try to get my son in a smaller group so he could succeed, and they refuse. Is a private school a better choice? I'd like information on how to get help putting my son in a private school. My son will be in a class of 27, and he barely makes it in a class of 18. And it is a she, by the way. She's laughing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's address what she said here. What can she do? How can we help her?
As far as the workbook, on reachbeyondadd.com, there is a review by a family magazine that reviewed the workbook, and there's that review on there. And there's also...
I've read some great testimonials on your site about the workbook. So I do, the one who's chatting in the chat room, do go to Kerin's website, reachbeyondadd.com, and you can see the testimonials of this workbook of people that have used it. So, and
a lot of the parents that purchased the book in the last few months, I haven't heard from yet because they've been very busy with the kids' programs at school and things, and they haven't gotten back to me. But then there are other parents that have told me that it is really helping, and it's very different from the other books because it is a hands-on workbook, and it's not meant to blow someone's mind in terms of information and things like that. It's written in a very, practical format. And as far as how to get your son into or daughter into a private school, your son or daughter has to be evaluated by a child study team in the public school system, and that review and evaluation could help you as a parent find a school that will help your child to do better. And it's a process, but I don't know if your child or daughter has been diagnosed with ADD and what's being done about it. It sounds like nothing's being done about it, but the first things first concept is getting your child or son or daughter actually evaluated and given a clear diagnosis. And from there, it's important to Google different schools in your community that may specialize on with such children. And so that's the basic how-tos.
So basically your child has to be diagnosed. So do you take your child to your family doctor?
No, the pediatrician is not someone, unfortunately people do use pediatricians, but it's best to find a hospital that has a psychiatrist that does evaluations, and or ask your pediatrician for a child psychiatrist who can do an evaluation. And
okay, I just got a message from her. She says, so would you suggest I just go to a private school and ask the steps, since, yes, he has been evaluated since kindergarten. The school's idea was to put him in counseling. So her son has been diagnosed since kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
So could she just then check out the private schools in her area?
Yes.
And then enroll, and then she also says the counseling didn't solve the issues of him wandering in class.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if the child is on medications or not, but the most important thing is finding a practitioner that can diagnose a child, and this one already has been. And the second thing is to take that diagnosis and look to the CHADD website, capital CHADD, and see if there are any programs in your area that have private schools set up to help kids in smaller classroom settings. And